Hey, what's up? I'm Ben Bishop. This is a page from The Aggregate, a graphic novel I'm working on right now that should be coming out soon, hopefully. Um, and people are always surprised when I tell them that I don't ink, and so I wanted to show kind of my process from my finished pencils, which is what you're looking at here, um, to the final, print ready page or color ready page in this case. So this is what I get when I scan it in. You can see my pencils are already like super clean and um, tight because I'm crazy. But what I do is a lot of roughs, and I do all my thinking and trying new stuff and erasing on the various roughs. And then I lightbox that last rough, and that way I'm not making any mistakes on my final here. This is all done in a HB mechanical pencil, 0.5 lead, um, and it's super clean. This book actually was roughed digitally, but whether you're roughing on paper or digitally, I always tend to print out that rough and then lightbox it so that my finals are done with real pencil on real paper. So this is what you get right when you scan it in. And the first thing I do is I go to image mode and I turn it to grayscale, and you can see that that changes it quite a bit. I'll zoom in to show you what it did, but it scans in at RGB, so there's some color in there, and this page happened to be really blue, you can see there. And then when I take the color out, get that nice gray. Next step, I want to work on this as its own layer rather than a locked background, so I right click it, layer from background, make a new layer to go under that, and then I eyedrop the white just to make sure I'm working with the same shade of white, just in case it's not super perfect white. And I fill that bottommost layer with white. Basically, that's my desktop. And here I have my lines on top of that. And I just don't ever touch that layer one now. So the next thing I do to these lines to get them ready is I go to Image, Adjustments, Levels, and I pull this left slider basically to the first real peak, which is like right around there, and you can see what that does to my lines as I go. It's basically the left slider is going to make my blacks black, and then I pull in the right slider, the white one, just a little bit, and that's going to make my whites white. So if there's any, just minor smudging or graphite on the paper, it'll kind of take care of that. Hit OK. No real science there. You'll see like a peak on some of the pages though, where you get that big like mountaintop, and that's, you want to bring the left slider right to the beginning of that. You can kind of eyeball it too and just get somewhere nice where your page doesn't look like a Xerox. And then around this time is when I would eyedrop again to make sure I'm dealing with the right white. Go ahead and grab a brush, and I'm just gonna look around for spots that have crap that I don't want there. And usually this is on my scanner or just stuff you wouldn't even see on the paper until you did scan it in. So I'm just looking for glaring pieces of dirt or eraser dust, whatever it might be. I won't be able to get all of it, and frankly that's alright. I like to show a little bit of the fact that it's actually real and there's imperfections and that it was done on paper. And then if there's anything else I may have noted in the margins, then I'll deal with that stuff. This page didn't have much. I was going to add some more debris to this top panel, but now that I'm looking at it, looks like it's got enough going on. But there is one thing I see that's really bothering me, and this is called a tangent. And you can see here in from panel 1 to panel 2, we have this piece of scrap metal that just aligns so perfectly with this wrap on this weird guy's head, and I hate that. So I'm just going to magic wand and just change it a little bit just so it doesn't match up. And then I'm using kylebrush.com. I'm using Kyle's animator pencil, which matches my real pencils very well. And I'm just going to finish off that piece. See, you can't even tell. And then my kind of top secret trick is what I'll show you now. Secret's out. But I like to duplicate this layer. That's my line layer. And then I'm going to do a Gaussian blur. And I always do it at 1.4. And you'll see that that just like barely blurred my lines. So this is before and then after. And then I actually turn that layer to multiply so that it doubles up, and then I turn the opacity on that to around 38%, and you can see the before and after there. It's just kind of thickening up those lines, and it also softens them a bit because it has that little bit of blur. I just really like the way that looks. Looks really nice, especially when it's colored after. After that, I do a new layer, and this is where I'm going to do my panel borders. On the aggregate, the panel borders, I always set the animator pencil to 8. I just want to make sure everything is the same on every page. And then I'm holding down Shift so that I can get the perfectly vertical or horizontal lines. And so if I scanned this in a little crooked, this would kind of be a nightmare because Photoshop wants to let me do these perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical lines, and so if it was crooked when I scanned it in, I'd have to free transform the whole page to match. But luckily, it's all good. This just helps, give a more finished look to these pages. Yeah, I just love working in pencil. I've only inked a few books. I only really use ink on sketch covers because if I did a sketch cover for someone and handed it to them in pencil, they'd probably look at me like, what did I just pay for? And ink really helps make things look finished, but on these comics here, I'm able to just, darken it up just enough. And there's really no sense in re-inking it all over again. And I like a lot of the marks I can get with the pencil. See that I'm constantly doing cool stuff, like these hatch lines, and then sometimes I'll cut in with the eraser to make highlights on things. And I don't know, just really utilizing the fact that it's pencil. So the next thing I'm doing here is I made a new layer under my panel borders, and now I'm going to use, just going to double check and ink drop that white again. And now I'm going to use just a white underneath the panel borders to clean up any of this stuff that's creeping over the edges like this. You can see what I'm doing here. And this way it's not going to mess up any of the panel borders I just did because it's underneath it. Pretty simple stuff. Searching around for more spots that I want to get rid of or clean up. But for the most part, this was a pretty clean page. And I think that's it. Once that's done, I'll go ahead and save this. And then on this book, I'll be sending it off to the colorist. Thanks.